It was the third time this week. I swear. The sight of her ridiculous white Tesla Model 3 plugged into my driveway charger made my blood pressure spike so high I could almost hear it hiss. Didn't she see the private property sign? Or the sticky note I'd left on her driver's side window that very morning? Seriously, I mumbled to myself, who does this woman think she is? She was a brand new resident, just moved into the massive, two-story house with the manicured lawn on the corner, and she'd decided my personal electric vehicle charger was now public real estate. My patience was a thin thread, already frayed at the ends. The first time, I just figured it was a mistake. I waited 10 minutes. She came out, looked at me like I was a weirdo for standing in my own yard, unplugged, and drove off. No apology. The second time, I put up the sign. It was a good sign, laminated, in a bright orange font. She ignored it and stayed for 2 hours. I heard a low, throaty growl escape my chest as I watched her from my kitchen window. The third time, the morning note was a polite but firm request to please stop. Now, looking at her car, I felt the bile rise in my throat. What kind of person acts like this? What gives someone the audacity to just take from their neighbors? A sigh escaped my lips, hot and heavy, carrying all my frustrations. The neighborhood was supposed to be a peaceful, quiet little cul-de-sac. This woman, with her entitled smirk and her shiny new car, was a cancer on our small community. I tried to be reasonable. I walked over to her porch, my heart thumping a frantic rhythm against my ribs. I knocked, a soft rap that felt almost too timid. She opened the door, a woman in her late 40s with a severe bob haircut and a smug expression that looked permanently glued to her face. "Yes?" she said, her voice dripping with condescending sweetness. "Hi," I said, my voice shaking a little. "I'm your neighbor from across the street. I think you've been using my EV charger?" Her face hardened. "It's a shared resource," she said, as if it were a simple, well-known fact. "No, it's not. It's on my property, connected to my electricity," I explained, gesturing vaguely toward my driveway. She rolled her eyes, a grand, theatrical gesture. "Oh, please. It's a waste of energy for you to have that sitting there unused. It's for the greater good." She said greater good, like she was a benevolent queen bestowing a gift. My mouth fell open, a gasp of pure shock. "It's my charger," I stammered. "You don't get to decide what's for the greater good with my electricity." She just laughed, a short, sharp sound like breaking glass, and slammed the door in my face. The click of the lock echoed in the silent street. I stood there for a long moment, the scent of fresh-cut grass and her expensive perfume hanging in the humid air, feeling an intense, burning shame. Shame for being so easily dismissed, for being so powerless. But then, shame turned into something else, something hot and delicious. Fury. A plan began to take shape in my mind, a little whisper of an idea that grew into a roaring scream. A little voice in my head chimed in, "Isn't this going too far? What about the homeowners association?" But the other, louder voice replied, "She started it. This is karma." My fingers started to itch with a need to fix this, to right this wrong, to give her a taste of her own medicine. I remembered an old, unused circuit board from a failed electronics project. A weird little relay switch that could be programmed to do a few basic things. I also had a spare charger connector. A few hours, some soldering, and a whole lot of muttered curses later, my trap was set. The little box I'd built was now sitting discreetly inside the main junction box of my charger, waiting. The moment a car connected, the box would intercept the communication, tricking the vehicle into thinking it was receiving a charge. But in reality, it would be doing the exact opposite, a very slow, steady, and insidious drain. The ultimate irony. I checked my watch, a familiar knot of anxiety twisting in my stomach. It was just after 8 p.m. She usually plugged in around this time. The streetlights flickered on, casting a soft orange glow. The cicadas started their evening song, a high-pitched drone that filled the silence. And there it was, the low, almost silent hum of her Tesla rolling down the street. She pulled up, got out with her usual imperious stride, and without a second thought, she reached for the charger, pulling it from its holster on my wall. A small, almost inaudible click sounded from inside my charger unit as the relay switched. I held my breath. She plugged in the connector, and the car's charge port light pulsed a gentle, satisfying green. She glanced over at my house, a smug little smirk on her face, and then strode back to her door. I watched from the darkness of my living room, a ghost of a smile on my face. She thought she was winning. She had no idea. The next morning, I woke up to a sound I'd been dreaming of all night. Piercing, panicked scream. I pulled back my curtains, and there she was, standing next to her car, her face a mask of furious disbelief. She was frantically pulling the charging cable out and slamming it back in. The car's dashboard, visible through the windshield, glowed with a red warning symbol. 1% battery remaining. She let out a frustrated cry that was more like a squawk and began pounding on her car's hood. She tried to open the charging port door, but the lock I'd rigged held firm. I watched as her smug facade completely crumbled. She was stranded, a queen dethroned. She called the Homeowners Association. Then a tow truck, her voice rising to a frantic, shrill pitch with each passing minute. The Homeowners Association representative, kind, elderly gentleman, just sighed as he shook his head, looking from her to me and back again. She tried to tell him I had sabotaged her car, but there was no evidence. My little box was perfectly hidden, and her car had been showing charging all night as a beautiful little piece of poetry. The tow truck arrived, and she had to awkwardly try to explain to the driver what had happened, all while her car sat there, a useless, hulking piece of metal. As they winched her car onto the flatbed, her eyes met mine. For a split second, all the anger was gone. There was just a flicker of understanding, of bitter, humiliating defeat. It was the most satisfying thing I've ever seen. What a pathetic woman. What did she think was going to happen? Karma is a funny thing, isn't it? It has a way of coming around and reminding people that they aren't entitled to what isn't theirs. And sometimes comes with a little extra voltage.